As we learned in the first week of this course, most college and university catalogs contain a grouping of courses called the humanities. Studies such as literature, the visual arts, music, history, philosophy, and theology are almost always included. A second grouping of courses, including psychology, anthropology, sociology, political science, economics, business administration, and education, may or may not be included. A third grouping of courses, including physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and engineering, are never included. The reason the last group is excluded is obvious. Strict scientific or objective standards are clearly applicable. With the second group, these standards are not always so clearly applicable. There is uncertainty about whether they belong with the sciences or the humanities. For example, most psychologists who experiment with animals apply the scientific method as rigorously as any biologist. But there are also psychologists, Carl Jung for instance, who speculated about ideas like the collective unconscious and the role of myth. To judge their work strictly by scientific methods is to miss much of their contributions. Where then should psychology and the subjects in this group be placed? In the case of the first group, the arts are now invariably placed within the humanities, but then so are history, philosophy, and theology. As the title of your text implies, the humanities includes subject other than the arts. Then how are the arts distinguished from other humanities? And what is the relationship between the arts and these other humanities? These are broad and complex questions. Rigorous objective standards can be applied in any of the humanities, so painting can be approached as a science, by the historian of medieval painting, for example, who measures as precisely as any engineer the evolving size of halos in paintings over time. On the other hand, the beauty of mathematics, its economy and elegance of proof, can excite a lover of mathematics as much as, if not more than, painting. The poet Edna St. Vincent Millay proclaimed that, quote, "Euclid alone has looked on beauty bare," unquote. So the separation of the humanities and the scientists should not be observed rigidly. The separation is useful mainly because it indicates the dominance or the subordinates of the strict scientific method in the various disciplines. Artists are humanists, but artists differ from other humanists primarily because they create works that reveal values. Arts are sensitive to the important concerns of their societies, and they create artistic forms that clarify these values. The other humanists, such as historians, philosophers, and theologians, reflect upon rather than reveal values. They study values as they find them. They try to describe and explain values, their causes and consequences. Also, they may judge these values as good or bad. So, like artists, they try to clarify values, but they do this by means of analysis rather than artistic revelation. However, they may take advantage of the revealing role of the arts. Their studies will be enhanced because they will have a deeper understanding of the values they are studying. This is basically the help that the artists give to other humanists. Suppose, for example, a historian is trying to understand the bombing of Guernica by the fascists in the Spanish Civil War. Suppose he or she has exposed all factual resources. Even then, something very important may be left out: a vivid awareness of the suffering of the non-combatants. To gain insight into that pain, Picasso's Guernica may be very helpful. A value is something we care about, something that matters. Positive values are those that satisfy us or give us pleasure, such as good health. Negative values are those objects of interest that dissatisfy us or give us pain, such as bad health. In our value decisions, we generally seek to obtain positive values and avoid negative values. But except for the very young child, those decisions usually involve highly complex activities. To have a tooth pulled is painful, a negative value. But doing so may lead to the possibility of better health, a positive value. Intrinsic values involve the feelings that we have of some activity, such as enjoying good food or experiencing nausea from overeating. Extrinsic values are the ways we can achieve intrinsic values, such as making the money that pays for the food. Intrinsic extrinsic values not only arouse immediate feelings, but also are path to further values, such as the enjoyable food that leads to future good health. Subjectivist theories of values claim that it's the interest that projects the value on something. The painting, for example, is positively valuable only because it satisfies the interest of someone. If no one is around to project interest, then there are no valuable objects. Valuable is entirely relative to the perceiver, as, quote, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, unquote. On the other hand, objectivist theories of value claim that it is the object that excites the interest. The painting is positively valuable even if no one has any interest in it. Value is in the object independently of any subject. Jane is beautiful even if no one is aware of her beauty. The relational theory of value, which is the one the authors of your text have been assuming, claims that value emerges from the relation between an interest and an object. A good painting that isn't satisfying anyone's interest at the moment still possesses potential value. The subjectivist would say that this painting has no value whatsoever until someone projects value on it. The objectivist would say that this painting has value inherent in it, whether anyone enjoys it or not. The relationalist would say that this painting has potential value, that when it is experienced under proper condition, a sensitive, informed participant will actualize the potential. Values can be studied in terms of their interaction with human interests. For example, criticism tends to focus on the intrinsic values of works of art. Economics focuses on the art as a commodity, and ethics focuses on intrinsic extrinsic values as they are or ought to be chosen by a moral person. Values that are described scientifically are called value facts. Values that are set forth as norms or ideals are called normative values. Smoking cigarettes may be a source of satisfaction, both physically and socially. The value facts known about smoking cigarettes tell us that they're destructive to our health. They damage our lungs and ultimately cause heart attacks and several forms of cancer. Smoking cigarettes raises conflict between the intrinsic value of satisfaction and the extrinsic value of early painful death. Normative values tells us what our behaviors should be. An ideal position on the smoking of cigarettes would tell us that good health in the future is to be preferred to pleasant satisfaction in the present. The arts and the other humanities may clarify the possibilities for value decisions, in turn clarifying what ought to be and what we ought to do. And this is an invaluable function, because we are beings who must constantly choose among various value possibilities. Paradoxically, even not choosing is often a choice. The humanities can help enlighten our choices. Artists help by revealing aspects and consequences of value experiences that escape scientists. The other humanists help by clarifying aspects and consequences of value experiences that escape both artists and scientists. For example, the historian or sociologist might trace the consequences of value choices in past societies. Additionally, the other humanists, especially philosophers, can take account of the whole value field, including the relationships between factual and normative values. The arts and the other humanities are distinguished from the sciences because in the arts, strictly objective or scientific standards are irrelevant. In turn, the arts are distinguished from the other humanities because in the arts, values are revealed, where in the other humanities, values are studied. Furthermore, in the arts, perception dominates, whereas in the other humanities, conception dominates. In our discussion about values, we distinguished between intrinsic values, activities involving immediacy of feeling, positive or negative, extrinsic values, activities that are means to intrinsic values, and intrinsic extrinsic values, activities that not only are means to intrinsic values, but also involve significant immediacy of feeling. A value is something we care about, something that matters. The relational theory sees value emerging from the relation between a human interest and an object or event. Value is not just subjective, projected by human interest on some object or event, nor is value merely objective, independent of any subject. Values that are described scientifically are value facts. Values set forth as the norms or ideals are normative values. The arts and the other humanities often clarify what ought to be and thus what we ought to do. Finally, the arts are closely related to the other humanities, especially history, philosophy, and theology. The arts help reveal the normative values of past cultures to the historian. Philosophers attempt to answer questions about values, especially in the fields of ethics, aesthetics, and metaphysics. And some of the most useful insights about value experiences for the philosopher come from artists. Theology involves the study of religions, and religions are grounded in the ultimate concern for values. No human artifacts reveal ultimate values more powerfully to the theologian than works of art.